All right. So definitely see some familiar faces and some faces that are seem, at least to me, not quite as familiar. Um, are we okay with a quick round of introductions? I'm going to
Yes.
say yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So on my
So
screen, I see Julia in
most
the
of these
upper.
things have been.
So we can see everybody? Okay, yeah.
Julia, did you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, definitely. Hey everyone, I'm Julia. Sorry I've not been on. I'm actually living in Sydney right now, but my home base is Chicago, but I'm living in Sydney working for the Great Barrier Reef Foundation on protecting corals from the upcoming bleaching episode that's about to hit the Pacific. So I'll be back in Chicago soon, but with the time difference, it's been hard. But excited to meet everyone. I know I met some of you guys at ECAD last year. But happy to chat with anyone if anyone wants to talk outside of this. But nice to see everyone.
And you're coming in from Wednesday morning?
Yeah, it's 11 a.m. Wednesday.
All right. Very nice. Let's see, Chris and yeah, Lisa. Want to do a quick intro?
Hi, I'm
Hello,
Chris.
Lisa.
This is Lisa. I am an electrical engineer. I work at Michigan Tech University, and I've been a member of the Explorers Club since 2010.
I've been a member of Explorers Club since 2012, and I have done some work with Chris and Bob Schuckman.
Very nice. Next on my screen is Camilla. You?
Right. Hi everyone. I'm Camilla. I joined the Explorers Club, I believe this January, so recently new. And I am currently at the University of Chicago, and I'm doing a 5th-year PhD on isotope geochemistry and planetary science. So specifically studying how much oxygen was there for the origin of life on Earth, and also investigating the habitability on Mars, waiting for sample return from Perseverance in about 10 years.
All right, thank you. And Zbigniew. Oops, you're muted.
I'm unmuting myself. This is Zbigniew. I'm Zbigniew Bzdak. I'm a photographer. I live currently, actually permanently, I live in UP. And I'm really busy now flying every day between the range to document all the fall colors around my house, which is in the forest. But mostly I'm documenting some of the clear cuts which were done on the biking trails. So my days go with putting a drone on my back and going biking for 15 miles to the area. So having fun.
It sounds awesome. And Harsh Singhal, go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm a junior at Purdue University, and I'm a new member as well. I became a member in February this year.
Very glad to have you here. Melissa, you're next on my list.
Hi, I'm Melissa Aho. I'm in Minneapolis, and I work in the libraries at the University of Minnesota. And I've been a member since 2012. Used to do some archaeology, then I did a bunch of other stuff, and now I don't know what I do.
And next I see David. David, I don't think I know your last name. Are you?
David is
That's what I thought.
my guest. David Chen is my friend, and he owns a digital marketing company based in Valparaiso, Indiana. So he's part of our group, and he's looking to gain exploration experience so he can apply to the Explorers Club. His main focus of interest, as mine is ocean exploration. And but he's also met and went down to Mark Turner's location in South Bend, Indiana, and learn more about what he's doing with his Jurassic dinosaur dig in Montana. So I'm hoping that somebody can hook up with David to give him some experience he needs to be able to apply for membership.
That sounds great. And David, I didn't catch your last name.
Chen. Hello, everyone.
Chen?
Yes,
Got it. Wonderful to see you here.
Yeah,
Jim
thank you.
Westerman, I have you next.
Hello, I'm Jim Westerman. I'm in Utah right now. I will be here for at least until next spring, unless a project I'm working on, I guess, permitted, and then in which case I may cycle back through Chicago. My ongoing research is in archaeology in Egypt and in Machu Picchu, Peru. And I've been a member of the club since '98. And always glad to have the chapter have an event.
All right, awesome. Bob, I have you next. Bob Schuckman.
Here I am muted. Bob Schuckman, former chapter chair before Dina took over, and she's much more capable, so I really appreciate it. I'm semi-retired now, remote sensing guy, done a lot of water quality stuff, but more importantly, I went with Chris and Lisa Rusi, I'll give them one name, to Bering Glacier. We took a flag there and studied that glacier extensively. Chris built some clever robots that measured ablation melting plus meteorological values so that we could come up with a melt model. And now I'm going to revisit Bering Glacier going back to 1959 with some satellite and aircraft data and looking at what has happened due to climate change just for the hell of it. So it should be fun. Oh, and I'm the old guy in the room, fellow National 88, before most of you were born, but it's been a long road.
Not me.
Not me either. Ron Erickson, I've got you next.
It's Ron Erickson. I'm in Croswell, Michigan, which is about 20 miles north of Port Huron on Lake Huron. Been a member of Explorers Club, I think, since about 2009. I'm a geologist, retired from the Corps of Engineers, but now back to semi-retired, working quite a bit lately. A little bit different exploration. We've got 3 drill crews drilling 150 holes up at Sault Ste. Marie for the new Soo locks that they're building there. And so we're mapping all of the Jacobsville sandstone bedrock underneath the foundation of the new lock.
Very cool.
Probably the most interesting part of it is they're also the Corps is requiring us to do these optical televiewers, which I've never done before, which is after the hole is drilled, you drop this probe down there that does a 360-degree video of the hole that maps all the cracks and the clay layers and potential problem areas. So
very nice. Thank you. I'm going to go to the stairs next. That's on my screen. Pat and Jim.
Hi. Yeah, we're trying to get ready for winter around here, doing stuff in the warmth while we can. Go ahead.
Where are you?
We're
in Michigan.
Lexington, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
We're the ones that had the, what was it? Zero tornado go through here about 2 months ago, our backyard, and took out about 3 trees, about 12 feet off the ground.
So, and we've been members, what, for 3 years now?
Yeah, since 20.
Very nice. Glad to have you here. Gail, you're next on my screen. You're at the Gold Coast.
Hi, yeah, go Chicago. Hi, I'm Gail Batchelor. What's happening with me? I'm about to leave for my 4th trip to Manitoba, Churchill, Manitoba, to see how the polar bears are doing. They come to Manitoba and to Churchill once a year to do their annual feeding, and they're having problems now because the ice is taking longer to freeze on the bay, and so they're losing weight. They're traveling south. You're just having more challenges staying alive in that area. So it's a very interesting trip, and although it's more tourism than it is exploration, because this is an official thing, we are comparing how they looked and how many there were in our past trips of 2008, 2009, and 2016. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to sleeping in a bunk bed with a bunch of other photographers, but I'll handle it. Okay. And I'll report back when we have our next meeting.
I'm sure you'll do fine. Thank you so much, Gail. Jason, I see you're next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason, and I live out in the burbs of Chicago. And my family also has a cabin a stone's throw from Michigan Tech up there in Michigan as well. I'm kind of in the situation David is. I'm actually a friend of the club as of last year. I'm a software developer, an IT professional, and I also do some media work. So I do video editing, and I'm a professional musician. And I'm looking to kind of get into the exploration and expedition space as support. And thought it'd be fun. This would be a cool place to meet people, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Absolutely. Very glad you're here. Lynn Engelbert, I see you're here.
I am. I am a guest of Kenton. He invited me this morning, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. I am a dog handler. I work a dog that does historic and pre-contact human remains detection, and was actually on an expedition that Kenton was on 2017, looking for Amelia Earhart in the middle of the South Pacific in Nikumaroro. So thanks for the invitation.
That is amazing. And I know dogs are able to detect like trace chemicals in ways that we don't even understand. That's amazing. Nathan, thank you for the nice letter you sent me now that I see you, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, you're very welcome. My name is Nathan Marks, mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering here, South Chicago a little bit, Olivet Nazarene University. I'm in my last semester, and then around May time, the Army takes me full time for active duty officer, and then I'll be on my way down the line. But glad to see everybody.
Good to have you here. Kenton, you're next, but I'm not going to have you introduce yourself because I'm just going to have you introduce yourself ahead of your talk. So I'm
right.
And I'm going to go to Mary Sue Coates. Hi, Mary Sue.
He's coming.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm a geologist, and my history was from 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and we drilled several deep holes in northwestern Illinois to try to find the area where the Precambrian granite was the highest, so you wouldn't have to, where you could store radioactive materials. And so I'm a little bit forgetful on all the details, but with several thousand feet, we went down to find the place where the top of the Precambrian was the highest in Illinois. So,
well, it's wonderful to see.
Well, I always enjoyed this group, and there's still a few people that were left from that time, So it's nice to see you.
It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you.
Well, how long have you been a member, Mary? You're one of the first women members.
Well, I became a member in 1980, one of the first women.
Wow.
So that,
Excellent.
That is
Very good.
just excited to have you here. Thank you.
well, thank you.
Jeff, I have you next. And I don't know if I should pronounce your name Weir or Wire.
Weir's right. So Jeff Weir from Columbus. So I'm also a friend member that joined earlier this year. My day job is I have a logistics company out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And then in my spare time, we have a healthcare startup too. So I've been filing all the SBIR grants for NIH and NSH and all that good stuff. Also trying to get into the more involved in exploration and all that good stuff. So thank you for having me.
Sure, glad you're here. Thank you. Jasmine Deans, I see. I don't know if Jasmine's able to come on, but we're glad you're here either way. I'm going to jump to James Weston.
Hi, everybody. Hang on, I'm going to figure this out. Oh, no, there we are.
Hi.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Like to see you.
I'm Jim Weston. I'm here by invite from Kenton Spading. Appreciate you inviting me to this. I'm a UAS pilot, fancy name for a drone pilot up here in Washington County, Maine. And Kenton and I, along with Bill Snavely, worked on a project looking for the whitebird up here in Washington County. So Kenton invited me to this, and I wanted to see what it was all about.
Well, very cool. We're glad to see you. Glad to meet you. John Cada may not be available to come on.
Oh, I'm here.
There we go.
I just had to find my unmute button. I was desperately slurping down my chicken noodle soup for dinner. So I'm glad you didn't call 1 minute earlier, because I would have had my mouth full of noodles. I can't say I have a big swashbuckling career as an explorer. I mostly have been doing explorations at National Archives and online archives having to do with Amelia Earhart, and Kenton invited me to this talk he's giving today. So that's why I'm here.
Very good. Thank you. And last on my list, I have Andrew McKenna.
Hey there, Andrew McKenna. I'm a Explorers Club member in the Rocky Mountain chapter. I have been on several expeditions to Nicaragua. I think one with Kenton. So I've been out there 6 times, done a whole bunch of work on the Amelia Earhart project, and so happy to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. Kenton, you brought your own audience. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I might as well invite people you know.
Yeah, no, it's
interested in
wonderful.
what's going on.
I love this big group. I'll just say really quickly, I'm Dina Weibel. I'm a cultural anthropologist at Grand Valley State University. I study pilgrimage and religious sites and sacred places, but also religious aspects of space exploration. So that's one of the things I do. And now I'm going to turn things over to our featured speaker, Kenton. And I'm just realizing I need to make you a co-host so that you can share any kind of PowerPoint or similar slides or anything you might have.
Right.
And Kenton, did you want to introduce yourself, and then you can go ahead into your presentation?
Okay, sure. Yeah, my name is Kenton Spading. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. I was happy to hear that we have another member here from Minnesota. One of my goals has been to try to get a Minnesota little subgroup going. So maybe Melissa and I can connect sometime. I've lived in Minnesota my entire life. Went to the University of Minnesota. I have a degree in civil engineering with a specialty in water resources and hydrology. I've been researching the Amelia Earhart mystery since about 1992. But then I've also been involved in the white bird mystery, which I'll talk about today, so I won't go into that right now. And I'm involved in a couple other things, Sherwood Forest excavation over in England, and looking for the biblical city of Sodom in Jordan. So I like to golf. I got 3 cats here hanging out with me. You might hear a cat meowing if they come in here looking for me. So it's raining here today, and like the other gentleman said, we're getting ready for winter in Minnesota, putting away things and doing things in warm weather before it snows. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me to talk.
It's wonderful to have you here, and your presentation tonight, if I have it correct, is called Amelia Earhart, Sodom and Robin Hood.
Yes, I've added a little bit to it, but that's basically it. Yes.
All right, well, go on ahead. We're looking forward to hearing about this.
Okay, so I got to do a share screen here, right? So
Yeah,
let's see.
you
if I
should be
can-
able to now.
Okay, I should be able to do that. Let's do that first.
It's usually
Let's see.
green. The share screen is usually bright green.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It says who can share, the host only or all participants?
Oh, well, you're a co-host.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
So let me see if I can make you, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm gonna make you host.
Yeah, that's sometimes
That
that's
might make a difference. Okay. So can you share screen now? Usually co-hosts can do it, but maybe not. It's weird when you go from one system on Zoom to somebody else's
Okay.
system.
Okay. You have me as the host now, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I've clicked the host radio button, so I should be able to share now.
You should.
But you're not seeing my screen yet, are you?
Not yet. Have you clicked on share screen?
Let me try it again. Share screen. Yes, I have.
I'm not seeing it.
Hmm.
Is it a PowerPoint that you could possibly email to me? Then I could share screen and just click
Okay.
forward.
We
I'll
could
put my
try
email
it.
in the,
We could try that. Let me try that. Hang on.
I just sent you a message with my email address.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about the sharing thing. It looks like I'm doing everything I should. It says who can
Yeah, I don't know what
host
the,
only. I don't know. Okay.
let
All
me
right.
see.
Let me get in here, see what I can do to share it, to send it to you.
Okay. Just keep an eye out for.
All right, just a minute.
I used to run through it ahead of time, but I'd had no trouble for a long time. So I thought maybe they've ironed it out, but maybe they haven't.
Okay, let me go back in here now and see if I can find it.
Well,
Would it be easier to just allow to allow like everybody to be able to share their screen, all participants?
I can share screen and I'm not host anymore. So Kenton is actually host right now. So he should be able to, because I can't change anything at this point.
Okay, I've got the thing marked that says multiple participants can share simultaneously. I have that set?
I know I can share. That's why I was thinking if you could send me your,
Yeah, it's a pretty big, I just looked, it's a big file. It's,
how big is it? I can get up to 25.
it's about 90 megabytes, so it's
Oh,
gonna be
okay, that
bigger.
probably won't come through.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Kenton, when you hit share screen, so you
Yeah.
said that you're just getting a message.
No, I hit share screen and it says I got two choices. I got one participant can share at a time or multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Does it not come up with a window that shows your desktop and all the different things that you can click on?
Because usually it's, at least on mine, it's at the bottom. If I move my cursor, I can see at the bottom of the screen, mute, stop video, participants, chat, and then share screen is in bright green.
Yeah, I've got share screen in bright green. I've got the share screen.
And so when you click on that, it's only giving you an option to choose between two things.
Yeah. I've also got advanced options. So hang on here. Let me try this.
I clicked on share screen. I have the option of selecting a window to actually share.
Yeah, I do too.
Thanks for jumping in, David. It's his specialty.
Yes, and thanks to Jason too. We'll figure it out, I'm sure. Yeah, when I click on share screen, I can see a bunch of different screens I can share, and one of them is highlighted in blue. And then I can click share in the lower right to make that one shared. But
Okay, let's see here.
well,
Ken, do you have a Google Drive by chance?
Yeah, I've used Google Drive in the past. I use Dropbox a lot too.
well, you could share your file with me maybe via Dropbox.
I could do that. So let me try.
That's what
that.
I was thinking, because then
Yeah,
it's not the
that's a good
space
idea.
restriction.
Let me try that. Good idea.
So while we're waiting, Gail, is this your first time to Churchill? I didn't quite catch, or is this your fourth trip to Churchill?
It's actually my fourth trip.
Okay, so I did hear that.
Yeah,
Good
and
for you.
we went in 2000, if I remember, 7, 9, 2016. And
Okay.
What's happening there, and again, it'll be very interesting. I get some of my information from a group called Polar Bear International, which does a lot of work in that area, is that, the Hudson Bay, the ice is not forming on the shores as rapidly.
Right.
And if the ice doesn't form, the bears can't hunt. They hunt seals, and they don't just jump in the water and swim. They walk on the ice, and then they watch, and then they attack. That's their major food source, and like a lot of other bears, they just primarily eat one time a year. So they're having a lot of challenges now. It'll be interesting to see. And when they don't eat, then they go to the shore, as I mentioned before, and start diving into dumpsters because they're starving, which is very sad, but it'll be interesting to see what they're doing. But they congregate around church. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've worked with polar bears, international mapping dens on the North Slope. So yeah, good group. You're right. Very
Yeah, and
professional.
so it'd be very interesting. You know, the accommodations are not for the faint of heart,
No.
but that's why you go there. So I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll, you know, again report back. There was an article in National Geographic. I don't know the exact date, but on the cover they had what looked to be a blonde colored bear, and they're calling it the blonde bear. And that bear supposedly has mated with a polar bear, and he is either a brown or a black bear. And so a lot of the polar bears are starting to migrate south in Canada.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, they're mating with brown bears or black bears. You know, don't quote me about which one. And so what's coming out is a blonde bear. And they said the first time they saw this, they were stunned. They had no idea what was going on. Yeah. And now they're understanding this more. So obviously some polar bears are leaving the area because obviously the food source is not as easy to obtain.
I've heard that there are some bears known as Pisleys, which is polar bear combined with grizzly.
Yeah, that's correct.
That would be
particularly on the North Slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another example. That's an example of what I'm talking about.
Right.
And so very sad, but they're adapting. I mean, they're
Right.
adapting to their environment and doing what they have to do to survive. So
Just gonna check in. Kenton, how are we
Yeah,
doing?
I'm getting there. I'm almost there.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Did we want to talk about mentoring? Well, we've got a moment. We can jump out of order.
Yeah, that was filler, guys. I'm doing my best to. So.
No, I appreciate it.
yeah, filler here too.
Good job, Gail. So.
Thank you both. There were quite a few people asking me about mentoring, and I'll stop as soon as I get a good word from Kenton. And I don't know very much about the mentoring program, but I know that Jim Westerman's been involved. I know several people have been involved. And I wondered if it would be good to kind of share that information and talk about a little bit of time here for people's experiences with that, or how to find a mentor in the club.
They have a program at headquarters. I think it's called, I don't know if it's called mentoring, but anyway, if you're interested, they've been sending out emails periodically asking for volunteers or people who want to be mentors or need a mentor. And Jasmine is, I see, is on this call. She hasn't said anything, but I'm her mentor, and so it's a really good program. It's a very good idea by the club. One of the things that I believe is a real benefit of being a member is that you can network and talk to people who have more experience in the field you're interested in, and in most cases they will help you. And I highly recommend the mentor program, especially if you know you have a skill that you want to share. Mine is in archaeology, and Jasmine is becoming an archaeologist, and so that's kind of my take on it. It's if you're interested, contact the headquarters. They'll give you a questionnaire, and they'll try and link you up with somebody, either a mentor or a mentee, depending on which side of the equation you're on.
Jim, do you have to be a member to do that request, or can you be a friend, or can you just be an interested party who's looking for experience? How do you?
Jasmine was a student member. Well, I gather you have to have either to be a student member or a friend, or somehow connected with the club. Would people do it offline, not through the club? I would assume so. If anybody was interested, I would help them. But and I've had over the years. I was chapter chair for many years, and people would contact me that they want to join the club and how to help them achieve that goal. But So that's, the answer is, to be in the program, you have to be somehow connected with the club, but to have somebody help you, that's just, people will be helpful.
I sent it to you. Deanna.
Okay, let me see. You sent it to the email address, the
Yep.
YBLD@GVHU.
I sent it to you as a PowerPoint and as a key.
Okay, I know the PowerPoint, if it's that big, it will get bounced. But if you have the link to the Dropbox to
Well,
share,
I emailed you the Dropbox links.
okay, I'm looking.
You got two of them. You got one to a PowerPoint.
Gotcha. All right, I'm just waiting on it now.
Yeah.
Got to avoid that 25 megabyte limit that is so painful nowadays.
Yes, that's exactly what we have on my university account. I'm waiting. I gotta look in junk email just to be on the safe side. Nope, not there.
I'm gonna look in my sent folder. It's in my sent folder.
Sometimes there's just a delay.
Takes a minute. So Jim, I was just gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say you can also text the link to her phone or to her account. That's
Or even in the chat, that might work if you have the link.
That
Okay,
is true.
chat.
Right, I can try that too.
That's a good idea. Thanks.
All right.
I was just gonna ask quick, Jim. So I'm a friend of the club, and so that counts as enough membership for the mentorship program.
Maybe.
I applied for it. I went for it, and all my paperwork says member. So I'm like, come on. So
what's your interest? What do you want to help with?
well, I'm very much on the tech front of things. That's kind of my expertise. I'm not connected with any like universities or research institutions as such, since I'm like an independent party. I graduated from Georgia Tech last year with my master's in computer science, but I've always been really interested in exploration. So I'm kind of looking to get more information on like what skills and what connections I need to make to get into that space, since I am coming from a different direction than a lot of people.
Yeah, that would be I think maybe a tough one to connect with, but I'm not sure.
Jason, Bob Shuckman here. Email me and I'll try to steer you. Here, I'll do a little networking for you.
Oh, you're very kind, Bob. Thank you.
Okay. I'm on this email thread. You can find me. Just Google me. I'll pop up. I can't hide digitally. So okay.
There was an email that they sent out that the application is due the 31st of the month as well. So
well, thank you.
Right. I see a screen. Yay.
We did it.
We did it. Okay, Clinton, the way that, thank you. The way that this is going to need to work is you're going to need to tell me when to go to the next slide.
Okay, I'll say next when I'm ready. How's that?
Sounds good. Let me just make sure I can, let's see, what's the best way to
advance it?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm hitting my arrow key. I might need to not be full screen to do this. Let's see. I would like to be full screen. All right, let me try something else. I'm going to open it in PowerPoint for the web and see if that makes a difference. We're going to get there. We are making progress. And please ignore how many tabs I have open. I'm one of the...
But I may die of old age here, Dina.
I know, it's opening. It's opening. It's going to be fine.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Come on. You could do it. All right.
That looks better.
Yeah, we're in
right.
PowerPoint now. Good.
I'm just going to do it this way, and it might be a little small, but it should work okay. All right, Kenton, you tell me when to do next.
Okay. All right. So sorry for all the trouble, folks, but we got there through a miracle of technology. The title of my presentation today is Amelia Earhart, the White Bird, Biblical Sodom, and Sherwood Forest. Next. Credits to Lou Tolman, who's a fellow with both the Explorers Club and the Royal Geographical Society, using some photos he gave me and some other information. Tom King, PhD archaeologist, who's also a fellow with the Explorers Club. Credit to the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery and many others. Next. We're going to talk about 4 expeditions today that I've been involved with. The first is Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan, who were lost somewhere in the Pacific Ocean region during what was called the World Flight in 1937. Charles Nungesser and Francois Coley, 2 Frenchmen who were lost somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean region, flying Paris to New York in 1927. The biblical city of Sodom. No one knows where it is. There's a number of hypotheses. Is it a legend? Was it destroyed? We'll talk about that. Sherwood Forest, King John's Palace, and outlaws and Robin Hood and other things that occurred in and around Sherwood Forest. Next. This is Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan. They were attempting to do what was called the World Flight, fly around the world at the equator. She was going to be the first person to do that, man or woman to do it. She'd already set numerous records, flight and aviation records prior to this. She disappeared on July 2nd, 1937. That's a drawing of her Lockheed Electra 10E. Next. This shows the route that they were going to. I think you can see my mouse cursor on the screen. They started in Oakland, California, flew across the US, down across South America, jumped over to Africa, crossed Africa, through the Middle East, across India, down through Indonesia, Australia. Then they ended up there at Lae, New Guinea. From Lae, New Guinea, they were going to jump to Howland Island, a little speck of a land in the Pacific Ocean, then jump up to Honolulu. At both of those places, they were going to refuel and then head back to Oakland. Somewhere between Lae, New Guinea and Howland Island, they disappeared. Next. So this is a blow up of from Lae, New Guinea, where we just kind of saw that in the last slide. So they see they're flying through here over to Howland Island was their destination. But down here, you can see something called the Phoenix Islands. And in the Phoenix Islands group, there's an island called Nikamororo, which is a hypothesis that she ended up on that island. There also are 2 hypotheses out there. One is she ended up on Buka Matsunga Island, which if you go way over here toward the left in the slide, you'll see Lae, New Guinea, and then a big island there right next to Lae, New Guinea. That's the Buka Matsunga area. One hypothesis has her turning around because she was running low on fuel and trying to get back to the airport at Buka. Another hypothesis has her at Orana Hall Island, which is also in the Phoenix Islands chain. Next. This is Nikamororo. I could do a whole presentation on the work we've done in Nikamororo. There's been over a dozen expeditions to the island. As you can see, all these red areas are various sites where many of which archaeology has been done on. Island's about 4.5 miles long, about 1.5 miles wide. Again, kind of in the up by the equator, or really in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Ocean. Next. These are expeditions to the island that have occurred so far. There's an aerial oblique photograph in the upper right-hand corner. You can see there. I won't mention all these, but from 1989 all the way to 2015, each one of those was expeditions to the island. Some of them were land-only searches where land archaeology was done. Others were land and underwater searches. Some of those underwater searches were scuba only. Some used remote operated vehicles. Some used sonar. Some used all sorts of different types of technology to look underwater. One of the challenges is the island is about up on a mount in the ocean bed, about 3 miles high. So anything that goes off the edge of the reef goes quite deep. The 2 in red there, 1997, land and underwater search. I was on that expedition to the island. And in 1998, I did an expedition to Canton Island, which is near Nicomaroro, and I also went to England to recover files from the archives in England. Next. And then there were two more expeditions. One was a bet chart expedition. The photo in the middle there, it shows 5 people. That's me, the second from the right. Actually, Andrew's on the call. Andrew is second from the left there in the blue shirt. And then I'm in the kind of the tan colored shirt. That's us on Nicomaroro Island in 2017. We were the last group off the island. That we took that just before the last boat left. So that was the 2017 search. Over on the left side of the screen, you'll see Robert Ballard. Ballard, as you know, found the Titanic and various World War II wrecks in the Pacific and a lot of other things. He did a search around the island, a deep water search around the island in 2019. Both the 2017 and 2019 expeditions deployed human remains detection dogs. And you can see one of the dogs there. Is that you, Lynn, there? That might be Lynn with a dog there. Lynn's on the call today too. And then down below, you can see Ballard's ship at night and one of the remote operated vehicles there. Next.
Yeah, I had to unmute. That was the other Lynn, Kenton.
That's the other Lynn. Okay, that was the 2019.
That was the other Lynn. With
Yeah,
her
that
voice.
was in 2019 then. Yeah. Okay.
2017, I think it was.
Okay. The Buka hypothesis, again, I won't go into this very long, but she was heading toward Holland, turned around, came back to Buka Island. Next. I'll say one more thing about Buka before I go back. There has been 2 expeditions to Buka Island, both of which deployed divers. They did locate an aircraft wreck off the island. It's unknown what aircraft that is. It could be World War II or Earhart or something, and there's plans for another expedition back to Buka. Another hypothesis is that she ended up on Orono Hall Island, and I gave you a little different view here of the Pacific. You can see all these islands are the tops of volcanoes. They're these what I call seamounts. You can see Nicomaroro kind of in the middle there, where we've done all the dozen or so expeditions, Nicomaroro. Then Orona Island, just to the right, or Hall Island, is where another possibility is. We may go back there. Next. Okay, that was Amelia Earhart, just a briefing on Earhart and some of the expeditions I've been involved with. Moving on to Nungesser and Coley and the White Bird. That airplane you see there was called the White Bird. As you can see, it's all white. The 2 gentlemen you see in the photograph there were World War I aces. At the time, they were well-known. People in the United States would have known them. They would have been in lots of newspapers from their exploits during World War I. They were trying to fly Paris to New York. They likely disappeared somewhere in Canada or Maine. Next. This is the route that they would have taken, the Great Circle route. And as you can see at the top there, they were chasing the Orteig Prize. The Orteig Prize was $25,000 offered by a New York businessman, hoteler named Raymond Orteig, for anyone who could fly nonstop New York to Paris. He thought that would help his hotel business if they could do that. So these guys are trying to do that, and they were lost and never found. You might recall that 10 days later, after they disappeared, Charles Lindbergh, from Minnesota here, did successfully fly New York to Paris. These guys likely made it to North America, but weren't found. Next. Okay, from 1984 to 1992, the Tiger organization that I mentioned earlier organized 20 expeditions to Maine looking for the White Bird. Over 200 volunteers combed the woods. But in 1992, Tiger suspended searching for the White Bird in Maine when contemporaneous accounts were discovered that placed the airplane over Newfoundland. Not necessarily crashed in Newfoundland, but people in Newfoundland had contemporaneously recorded that they saw an airplane flying over the peninsula. Next. Oh, one more thing. Don't go next. Gull Pond. So I'm sorry. Can you go back?
Yeah, sorry.
My fault. Down in the left corner there, you'll see the word Gull Pond. And there's
I didn't do that. I'm sorry. We're gonna go backward here. There we go.
yeah, you can see Gull Pond. You can see a finger of the peninsula that sticks down that way. Gull Pond is down on the lower end of that peninsula. So the next two or three slides are me down there in the wilderness. That's all wilderness down there. So I want you to think of like the wilderness of Canada, northern Canada. Somebody said they're going up to Churchill. It's all wilderness up there. Very few roads. That's the same way that it is in this peninsula in Newfoundland, Canada, province of Canada. Next. So that's me in March of 1994. I'm on the frozen surface of the Gull Pond, which was a pond where it's been hypothesized that the airplane may have crashed. That's Verl Fendelson pulling the boat, a little inflatable boat. I'm behind the boat. And if you notice, there's a long horizontal thing there. That's electromagnetic, a big metal detector, essentially. And we're looking for the engine of the airplane down under the ice. Next. We did find an anomaly when I plotted the data. There definitely was an anomaly under the ice. So here we are back there a few months later in May of 94 with a metal detector again, only we're actually on the water this time. And it turned out that what we found was a hot rock. Interestingly enough, exactly the size of the engine, which is how these searches oftentimes go. You can notice the kind of the muskeg wetland area in the background there. Again, it's wilderness, it's treeless, but that's all bog you see around there. Next. September, we came back again to do some more searching within the pond. That's me with my back to the camera, a gentleman driving the boat with me, and another kind of a high-tech metal detector unit there. That's our camp. You can see a tent over there on the left where we're camped out on the muskeg. The wind was blowing quite heavy that time. In the far distance from the boat, you can see a rocky island. The theory was that the airplane came in to land on this pond and hit that island and broke up. Next. September 2023. I'm sorry, that should say August 2023, not September. I was in Maine looking for the white bird, and Tiger was back in Newfoundland. So Tiger has revigorated the search for the white bird over the past, say, 12 months or so. And they've been up in Newfoundland this year, actually, twice. And I believe they're planning to go back again. Meanwhile, I wasn't chosen to be on the Newfoundland team. So another team formed with some colleagues of mine who said, well, let's reinvestigate the Maine hypothesis and go back looking in Maine. And I've been to Maine twice, chasing the white bird there. Next. Here we are in September 2022. So last year, a little over a year ago, you can see the inflatable boat. Jim is on the call here. Jim Weston, you probably saw him on the call with a beard. That's him. That's his drone landing or pad there. He's firing up the drone as we talk there. That's me in the brush searching for a debris field for the airplane. We'd flown the drone over this area previously, and we'd seen some targets that looked suspicious, and we were out there checking them out on the field. You can see the river in the background there. Again, this is a wilderness area again, all wilderness in here. Next. This year, just a couple months ago, I'm back up there again. You can see a team. Jasmine is on the call tonight. That's Jasmine on the far right, standing there. She's got kind of a head net on, a lot of bugs out there. There's Jim in the white shirt and some other folks there. We're getting ready to launch a couple of boats to go out. There we are in the boat down in the bottom there. That's me with sunglasses on. We're motoring out to the site. Next. Okay, that's the white bird search, which you can see is ongoing. Now we're going to switch to the biblical city of Sodom. So in January and February of this year, me and Lou Tolman, I just saw Lou logged in, by the way. Lou just came in a minute ago. So Lou is on the call now. Anyway, Lou and I were in Jordan, which most of you know is just right next to Israel. We were with this group here, the Trinity Southwest University and Veritas International University, working in conjunction with the Kingdom of Jordan to try to determine if this, what they call a tall in the Middle East or in Jordan, as you can see, it's just a big mound or a big hill coming out of the landscape. This at one time would have had a palace on top of it, a big stone palace, and there would have been revetment walls around it, like a castle. Think of a castle. This would have at one time had a castle on top of it, overlooking the landscape, and there would have been farm fields all around here. And then about right where the edge of the picture is, there would have been another stone wall around there. So if you were going to attack this city, you had to get through that first stone wall and then try to get up the hill and go over another stone wall to get to the castle. The far distance you see there is the Dead Sea, and then further beyond that is the West Bank of the Palestine, where the Palestinians live, and some Israelites, and beyond that Israel. So we were there in January, February this year. Next. Okay. Oh, okay. So here's just another picture of it. You can see the Dead Sea in the middle. Tal El Hama. Hama there, right at the top where the arrow is. That's where we were digging, right at the north end of the Dead Sea. Jordan on the right, Israel on the left, Sinai and Saudi Arabia there, Mediterranean Sea. And then down below, you can see it, that same picture I showed you again, where the palace would have been up on top, a temple up, there's remnants of a temple up there too. Next. Just kind of an artist's concept of what might have happened here. This group that Lou and I were digging with, their hypothesis is that the reason there's no evidence of Sodom or Gomorrah for that matter, and by the way, there's 3 other cities that may have been destroyed as well. There's no reason there's very little evidence of them is that because of a cosmic airburst, very similar to the 1908 explosion that occurred in Russia. This comet would have exploded at a high altitude, then it would have rained debris and pieces of a meteorite down on the ground, causing a huge heat explosion and destroying anything in its way. This would have happened about 1650 BC. Next. This is down at the bottom is a picture of the hill again. I want you to think about the very left side, way over to the left, kind of down that slope you see on the left. You'll find this crater right there. As you can see, kind of I'm not saying that is a crater. We're not saying it's a crater. We haven't proven that yet, but it looks like a crater where maybe a piece of a meteorite might have hit that would have destroyed this city that was on top of the hill. Some of the evidence for that is that we find shock quartz in the area. Shock quartz occurs when quartz is exposed to a really, really high heat. And then we've got melted roofing materials down here on the left and a bunch of other kind of things that melted under very, very extreme heat. Next. Okay, on the left side, a picture of me up on top of the hill. In the background is where the palace would have been. And then the foreground are where the kitchens and storage areas would have been to serve the palace. And then on the right is me. I uncovered that during the dig. I uncovered that pottery handle there. That pottery handle probably dates back to 1600 to 2000, somewhere in that range. We uncovered quite a bit of pottery when we were up there. Next. This is Lou and I. I'm on the left, Lou's on the right. I have to shout out to Lou. It was because of Lou finding this group that's doing these excavations that I ended up on this. He found it and said, hey, do you want to go join me on this? So I did. Those of you that are looking for field experience, I heard that from at least 2 people here on the call. You can tie into these archaeological organizations that are doing digs all over the world. There's a lot of them in England, Middle East, in the United States for that matter. Yeah, you're a volunteer. You got to pay your own way, and so on. But you get valuable field experience from that. Next. Okay, now we're on to King John's Palace. So in August of this year, I traveled to England. Again, Lou was with me. Lou and his wife came along. And we went to what's called King John's Palace at Sherwood Forest. Sherwood Forest, of course, is where the legend of Robin Hood came from. I'll have a slide on Robin Hood at the end here talk briefly about Robin Hood. Robin Hood's not my main focus, but I'm going to share some things about the Sherwood Forest that would support the idea of there being maybe outlaws or you know, an outlaw like a Robin Hood maybe being there. Next. I just want to give you an idea where we are. That's England on the right. You see kind of a white or green triangle. That's where Sherwood Forest is. Then above that, the black circle, that's York. York's going to be an important thing in this story. And then London is down below there. If you notice down below the triangle is London. And there's a main road that runs from London to York. York was a major town back in this time, say in the 10th century up through the 14th century or so. York had a courthouse there. The king did a lot of his business through York. And you can see that York is in the backyard of Sherwood Forest. That'll be important when I talk about the Robin Hood thing in a minute. Okay, next. King John's house. So I'm going to show you what the ruins looks like here in a minute. There isn't much left of the palace. So I'll back up for a minute and talk about the things at the top of the slide here. Why was Sherwood Forest important? Why was that in the Robin Hood legend? Well, it's because it was a royal forest. The kings back in those days, in those centuries, they would have had numerous royal forests around England. Think of a royal forest as kind of like our army base today, okay? When the king would arrive here, he'd have a palace there. In this particular case, this enclosure, you can see there's an enclosuring wall, kind of a protective wall. He would have had 200 horses here, 200 horses under stable. So if he had to send out a posse or something to enact royal law in the area, he could do that. He had servants here that were here all the time, kind of like a royal outpost, okay, right there. And then the Sherwood Forest was a royal forest. You were not allowed to hunt there. Only the royals and their parties could hunt there. And you could walk through the forest, but you could not have a bow and arrow or any kind of a weapon on you if you walk through there. If they saw you with a weapon, they'd assume you're trying to hunt the deer. That's against the law. The king is going to send a posse out to get you, and you could be punishable by death. The kings would come here occasionally. We'll see a list of all the ones that were there in a minute. They'd come there to hunt. Hunting was a big thing for kings at the time. That's how you kind of proved your royalty or your manhood or your virility, was by hunting. And you would reserve forests around England just for that, with palaces nearby. Next. These are the kings who visited King John's palace. That picture I just showed you. Henry, I won't read all these. Henry, Richard, you can see from 1181 all the way up to almost the year 1400. Various kings were there, and you can see kind of in the middle there, John is the third one down. He was there 5 times. Some of those visits, by the way, are just overnight visits. John was there, but not, I think he spent a total of 9 days there. So it's kind of interesting how it got named after him. But anyway, it's called King John's Palace. Next. There's the palace ruins in the background. You got to think of it as being quite a bit bigger than that. It was 2 stories high, so twice as high as you see there. And it would have been, quite sumptuous. Somebody stripped all the polished limestone off the outside of it, but it would have been a palace. You can see it's kind of on a hill here. Sherwood Forest is in the background. So it's kind of overlooking Sherwood Forest, particularly to the left. The left is kind of more where the Sherwood Forest is, but also kind of beyond the palace. That's me in front of the palace. Next. Okay, we were doing a dig there with an outfit called Mercian. That's one of the archaeologists with his back to the camera that was overseeing the dig. The palace is to the right of here. And where this dig is where we think the wall, one of the outer walls might have been that surrounded the enclosure. So we're looking for evidence of those outer walls. Like what was the perimeter of this? We only have the ruins now. We want to identify where the whole grounds were, including the outside wall. And that's some of the participants in the dig that are there from all over the world, by the way. I think we had New Zealand, United States, England, people from all over. Next. That's Lou. Lou's down doing some excavating. Again, the palace is to the left here. We'll see the palace in a minute. Next. Yeah, so this is the dig again. The stones you see there may be the top of a wall. We didn't have time the week we were there, but we did find evidence of some kind of a structure there in the dig. And the black circle in the upper left-hand corner, that's where the palace is at, over there in the corner. The ruins of the palace. Next. Lou and I again, standing in front of the dig. This was a archaeological school, so at the end of the week, if you were to go on a trip like this, at the end of this week, you'd get a certification that you were trained in certain archaeological techniques. In the background there, you can see screening. There's 2 screens set up in the background. We're screening the dirt that we bring out of the excavation there. Next. Okay, so this is my last slide, so I'm wrapping it up here. Who is Robin Hood? I could do another whole presentation just on Robin Hood if you like, but the prevailing theory is that there was a gentleman named Robert Hod, H-O-D, and Robin was a diminutive nickname for Robert. So he's called Robert, but Roberts are sometimes called Robin. In 1225, the court in York, so that York where I showed you the court was up there, they determined, and when this is in the official records in the archives, they determined that he was an outlaw. He was declared to be an outlaw. And there's some evidence that the keeper of the royal forest, so the royal forest would have had a keeper, the king would have hired someone to keep track of the forest. There's some evidence that Robert Hod and the keeper of the Sherwood Forest were at odds with one another. Could be that Robin Hood maybe was hunting in the forest. It could be that that his outlaw group, Robert Hod's outlaw group, was attacking people on the road from London to York, because the road from London to York ran right near the Sherwood Forest. In any case, Robert Hod was eventually found. They sent a posse out to get him, and he was found, beheaded, and hung in chains. There's 2 or 3 books on this. If you want to read a whole book on kind of Robert Hod, actually a very well researched book, you can do that as well. Next. Okay, just got any questions you have, I guess. Also, that on the right there is the book I wrote on Amelia Earhart. If you're interested in the book, it's on Amazon. You can get a copy on Amazon. I wrote a book about the Earhart mystery. That's me on one of the ships when I was at Nicomororo. Okay, I'm open for questions.
I'm going to stop sharing just so we can see each other.
Kenton, I was curious, after this period of time has passed, like when you're looking for an aircraft that may have been in the ocean for a long time or on an island, how much of it do you expect to find left? Do you expect to find it pretty intact? Do you expect to find just like more pieces? Because I know at really deep depths, you know, planes from like World War II can be perfectly preserved, but at, you know, higher depths, it might not be the case. So what are you guys looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to answer part of that question, and then Andrew, who's on the call here, is actually a diver and has done a lot of diving and would know a little bit more about your question than I would. But generally speaking, the engines are going to be fairly intact. So the engines are kind of the big target, right? 2 big, huge 550 horse Wasp engines. That's a target. The aluminum does tend to preserve fairly well, but it can be broke up and stuff too. Andrew, are you on the call? Do you want to add a little bit more to that?
I am on the call, and so you know we have multiple examples of World War II aircraft that have been down in salt water for 75 years now, or almost 80 years, and the thing is that aluminum is actually pretty stable if it's underwater. Even if it's in salt water, it's fairly stable. The salt leaches into it, but underwater it's still stable. And what happens is if you just bring it up and expose it to oxygen, it will degrade very rapidly. So when it comes to Amelia's airplane, personally, my thought is that most of the airplanes down in the deep water, it will be largely intact. And until it gets brought to the surface, then you don't have to worry about degradation. But so yes, there's many examples of World War II aircraft or before that are relatively stable at depth. The risk is when you bring them up. Does that help?
Oh no, very much so. If it's on land, what happens? Like, I assume there's probably enough to identify it, but does it degrade more on land if it landed on the island for the last 80 years?
Well, so if it's on land, it's relatively stable. It's not going to degrade. Aluminum is very durable stuff. We would have found it if it were at Nicaragua, and it's hard for me to say that the aircraft, Amelia's aircraft, is on land at Nicaragua above sea level, because at this point, because we haven't found it, and we've been all over this island, and yet the island makes eminent sense for a variety of reasons, and a 2-hour lecture ensues, right? But so in my mind, it's like, okay, she landed on the reef flat, survived for a while. The aircraft gets swept off the reef, and it's down in the deep water, where it will exist, and it'll take deep water technology to find it. So, take your pick.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to say, great to meet everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ken, for your great talk. I have a music rehearsal, so I gotta jump. I was just gonna ask Dina, would you mind sending me Bob's email? Because I can't access that as a participant in the groups.
Okay.
So you just send my private email later. It's fine, whenever you get to it. But thank you guys very much. Have a good night, okay? And thank you again for the wonderful talk.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Jason. Are there other questions?
Yes. So I have a question maybe for Lynn. So when you use human remain search dogs for this kind of search, I was wondering, please understand my ignorance of biology here, because I saw that the dogs were used even after a few decades, like after the accident. So what would be your target when you dispatched those dogs for like a long time after there could be any signs of human remains?
Okay. If a person, when they die, if they are buried and they remain in situ and protected from the elements, the oldest remains that we have found, as far as our team is concerned, was dated to 9,500 years ago, and because it had been buried, and they actually were able to do dating on that, so kind of knocked our socks off. But if they are protected from the elements, we maintain our scent for a very, very long time. It's quite common for us to find remains that are dated to anywhere 1,000, 4,000 years old.
A follow-up question to that. So how did you train the dogs? Do you actually give them, like, I don't know, like human remains that are a few thousand years old, to let them know, get familiar with?
We train using old human bone. We get them from osteological supply houses, where colleges used to get articulated skeletons for their classrooms and stuff like that. And they still have human bone, and we get them, and quite often we'll call and say, "Hi, I'm a dog handler," and they know who we are. And we don't care what those human bones look like. They don't have to be pretty, they just have to be human. So our dogs are trained on actual human remains that are usually, a couple of 100 years old. Every now and then we'll get something a little bit older, but they're actually trained on real human bone. We also train on teeth that we get from oral surgeons, and we'll put them out in the sun for a couple of months. You have to protect them so the squirrels don't run off with your teeth, and just let them get old and dry. And then we train on that too. We can actually have dogs who find individual teeth.
Got it. That's so cool. Also, thanks, Kenan, for your amazing presentation.
Well, you're welcome. And I'll just add one little ad there, and I think Lynn can maybe confirm this. If someone dies and decomposes under a tree or near a tree, it can get sucked up into the roots, and the dog may actually alert on the tree itself.
Actually, what happens is the products of decomposition will soak into the ground, and they'll soak into the tree, but they don't actually get sucked up into the tree itself.
Okay.
That will maintain the scent for a very long time. When we were there in 2017, we had 4 teams, and each team searched the site, the Wren Tree site, individually. And each of the dogs alerted on the same area, completely blind from the other ones. And I noticed, Kenton, on your map of Nicaragua, the pre-contact burial area that we found, that was my girl who found that, Piper. So she was the one. And then the next night, gosh, what was her name? She came back and said, yeah, it had to be at least 600 years old. And I had goosebumps this big.
Yeah, Jamie Bach.
No, it wasn't Jamie. Oh, it's Nancy.
Oh, Nancy Farrell.
Nancy Farrell. Yeah, she came back and she said there were no evidence of that being anywhere connected to the colony that was there.
Okay.
And that it had to be at least 600 years old. So that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, if I could jump in here, these dogs were amazing. And of all the millions of trees in the South Pacific that we could have predicted they would have alerted under. Sorry, let me control my phone here. Of all the millions of trees in the South Pacific we could have predicted they would alert under, they all in 2017 and in 2019 alerted under this one tree on Nicaragua. So we know, I mean, with relative certainty that this is where a castaway died, for certainty. And just to expand on that a little bit, and the colonists found 13 bones, leaving 196 other bones that were not recovered or found in 1940 that are yet out there to be discovered. So this is part of our work. If we could ever go back there, there's more work to be done.
I have my hand in the air. I'm dying to go back. Yeah. And you have coconut crabs there. There are these big things that have 10-foot deep burrows, and those bones could be somewhere down in those burrows. But somebody definitely died and decomposed there, without a doubt.
Are there other questions? I'm going to sneak one in if I can. First of all, I just want to say that I'm at Grand Valley State in the anthropology department, and we used to have a 4-field research methods class, and Amelia Earhart's Shoes was frequently used as a textbook for showing sort of interdisciplinarity and how different things could work together, different approaches could work together. I also wondered if there are any opportunities for undergraduate participation in the Robin Hood project.
We had undergraduates in that field school that you saw there. So yeah, there was undergraduates in that group. Yes.
I'm just wondering if is there going to be a future field school, and how would students at Grand Valley?
Yeah. Well, actually, they just sent an email out. I just got an email a couple of days ago about the next set of field schools that are coming up. And they actually have,
can
they have
forward
four
it, that'd be
sites. They have
awesome.
4 sites in England where they do stuff. So there's the King John's Palace / Sherwood Forest Robin Hood area. And they have 3 other sites they do digs at too. And I can email you separately from this.
That sounds
like,
great.
yeah, I can do that. Sure.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much for this. That was a really, really interesting presentation. Even if we got off to a little bit of a bumpy start with it, I think it worked out okay. I want to be mindful of people's time. We are way over, so I'm going to suggest tabling or moving the chapter member activities opportunities to email, and the same with in-person event suggestions and invitations. If there's somebody who is desperate to make an open comment, I will let you do that. But otherwise, I think it might be nice to call this to a close and thank Kevin, I didn't mean that, Kenton, once again.
Thank you, everybody. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if anyone has any further questions, email me through Deanne or something, you know. If you're looking to get involved in digs in somewhere, let me know.
Thank
Right.
you, Kenton.
Talk.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.
Hi. Good night, the big new.
Good
Good night, everybody.
night.